All right, Ethan, let's take a look at your paper. So, couple things. Well, let's just look at it. So, your hook is actually pretty good because it sets up a little bit of what hysteria is and gets an example to draw your reader in. So sometimes it's hard with introductions to use examples because um, you don't want to use specific ones because you want to save it for your body paragraph. But this is a good way to set up some of the things that are going on. So this is pretty good. What I would say, let's talk about a few things. You have the wrong word here. You have the wrong fainting. You want F-A instead of F-E. F-E is that kind of fake jab that was one of your vocab words from however long ago. So from students fainting in school because of curses, and then maybe put a comma there, or others having laughing fits from inducing chemicals, comma, hysteria is everywhere. I think this is really powerful because you get to talk about how, sorry if you heard that, that was Siri thinking I'm talking to her. Where was I going with this? I already forgot. Oh, it's powerful because it's like, it gets the reader thinking, okay, hysteria is everywhere. Where have I seen this? He just gave me an example. Where have I seen people be cursed or induced from chemicals? I don't know. I think what, aside from the homophone, is you're missing some words here and there. So you should say a majority of the time, media plays a big role in our lives. You want to avoid that first, second person. Other times, it wrong it, so we still have the homophone. It is the it's is without an apostrophe. It's possessive. Other times, it's just tricks. So this is like mass hysteria is just tricks. Like just tricks belongs to mass hysteria, which is not right. Tricks, jokes, or lies to scare people. And then you have first person here. You want to be in strictly third person, so be cognizant of that. Sometimes it may be true, other times it seems to be tricks for attention for se. I think you mean per se. I don't think this is a word per se. This is a little bit repetitive. And then this sets up a little bit about how people believe it is. And it's okay if you set up the different sides. What I would want you to be cognizant of is when you do those sorts of things, you still want it to be emphasized of whatever your perspective on this will be. So overall, what's missing? The hook is pretty good. I think you need to build up what mass hysteria is a little bit more. And you need your thesis. This is one of those rare times where the hook is pretty good and it's there, but you don't really have a thesis. You need to come right out and say what your thesis is. So, when we get right into your first body paragraph, and I see some people think this. So we will talk about it, because I think you might be a little bit all over the place, and we'll see. So with your first body paragraph, you're talking about people think it can only happen because of media. Okay, so excuse me. Your first body paragraph is a little all over the place. Some people think that this can only happen because of media. Okay, so maybe this is going to be about the media perspective. Some people believe that when something abnormal happens, they believe that everything is alright until the media gets a hold of it and changes the story around a little bit to purposely make everyone get nervous about it. Okay, so this is a run on. Something abnormal happens. Something I think you can get rid of this because you already talked about people believe, so this is a little bit redundant having here, so get rid of that. That everything is alright until the media gets a hold of it and changes the story around a little bit to purposely. Everything's alright until the media gets a hold of it. I would maybe put a comma here to break up the long sentence and changes the story around a little bit to purposely make everyone get nervous about it. So we go from media to this, how they twist things, how social media, with all these different kinds of social media, you should have comma. Things can be started easily, including with news or even just social media. I have no idea what you're talking about here, and I think part of it's just because of this word things. Using the word things can be a little bit lazy. You want to be as specific as you can. Um, And then you transition into, we have these different apps, and then the game telephone, you reveal it, and you have a contraction there, you want to get rid of that. Do not have any contractions whatsoever. Different sentence. And that's how it works with it being true or not, gets passed over until this becomes a big joke that everyone believes and no one should. Okay, so you have a lot of ideas going on in the sentence. Let's talk about this. Sorta is very informal. You want to keep it formal and use what we would call academic English. So you would at least want to use sort of, or just straight out say, this is how it works with whatever. But here's the problem with your first body paragraph. You have too many ideas going on, and they're not being related to what is more potent in creating mass hysteria. Which would be okay if you had longer than a 5-paragraph essay and you can set it up, but you do not. So you talk about something abnormal happens and the media twists it. And then you talk about social media has evolved. And then you talk about, and I can see how the game telephone relates to it, but then you go back to the miscued information. So I don't think your ideas are necessarily flowing super well in this paragraph, aside from the grammar things. What it mostly comes down to, Ethan, is you want to look at whatever your thesis is, which you don't have, and I'm still not sure what position you're taking, which is a problem because I'm about halfway through your paper, almost. Keep your paragraphs consistent with one idea. You've got about 3 different ideas going on here. And then, first of all, one thing that has happened that was caused by mass hysteria was the Salem witch hunt trials. Topic sentence is okay, except for this part. First of all, just say one example or one event caused, actually, yeah, you could just get rid of all this and say one event caused by mass hysteria was the Salem witch hunt trials. Because first of all, one thing that has happened, this is like the same thing. First of all, one thing that has happened, you're saying the same thing 3 times in a row, so be cognizant of that. Then you talk about witchcraft, use a comma here, because this is being used as a coordinating conjunction. It all starts when someone's accused of being a witch, comma. Well, maybe it's okay. People are going to, you have gonna, this is very informal, you want it to be going to. So I think grammar-wise, you have some redundancy, you have some comma things and whatnot, but I think you also really want to focus on making your paper be more formal. So if you were hypothetically to publish an article like you were reading, that's the kind of grammar structure and spelling you want to hone in on. And then you go into second person again. You have that sorta leads into the crucible with witch hunt trials, ties them together because everyone was making everyone else scared about the witches. It could be because it was all being spread around so fast that they couldn't think about it and figure out what was actually happening. Contraction there. So this is an example of mass hysteria, but you don't necessarily have any analysis. My assumption is that this is about human nature spreading it because people in the town freak out. It can get to you, but you haven't made this explicitly. Until we get to the next paragraph. Another thing that leads to mass hysteria is human nature in general. In my opinion, you want to avoid that first person. It is human nature to have, I'm assuming you mean drama. It gives thrills, it gives excitement, blah, blah, blah. And what human does not have a little bit of an anarchist and wants to start trouble? Not that I necessarily disagree with this perspective, but it could potentially isolate your audience. Maybe if you use the word rebellious here, or think about where you're making those hypotheticals of, maybe this is happening, or doesn't everyone have this? After all, everyone has a reason for something, whether they want to admit or not. I'm not sure what this is talking about. Reason for what? This is a little bit vague. And then you talk about chemicals because people are trying to figure out what happens, and unexplainable scares some people. I think this is actually really interesting. Something you could probably run with is the unexplainable scare some people. But anyways, as we move on to your conclusion, so no matter what it's from, this should be it is. People are scared of things, no matter it being the simple things like people laughing. No matter it being the simple thing. This is technically not a complete sentence. No matter it being... I'm not exactly sure what you're saying there. And the unexplained scares people and can cause mass hysteria no matter the situation. Don't want to start a sentence with but. That's one of your coordinating conjunctions. But that doesn't mean that media doesn't play a role. This could be some things that are going to travel no matter what. People just need to take a step back and see the big picture. That's what I think about mass hysteria. So Ethan, I kind of plowed through the last two paragraphs because I think I'm just going to repeat some of the same things. Overall, your introduction needs to be a little bit improved. And I think the main thing you're missing are going to be... Hold on a second. Give me 1 second, let me pause this. So with your paper in particular, you need to focus on some of the grammatical concerns, because what I'm looking at with grammar is if you routinely make the error, and I see that a little bit with your homophones, some comma concerns, contractions, missing words. You have a lot of first and second person. It needs to be strictly in third person. So be cognizant of that, and we'll see what we do in the next few weeks with it. But conclusion could be improved in introduction for just recapping some things, and you never really explicitly made it clear what position you're taking, so you need to be clear with media is more potent or it's human nature. You didn't really make that clear, and you needed to be focusing on specific examples and analysis. You only have things from the Crucible. You have some things where you hint at it, but you need to be using those texts to drive your article. A lot of this, or essay, a lot of this is hypothetical, so make sure that you are focusing, if you want to do the rewrite, on just using the texts that were provided for you, those 4 articles, to tie it in, focus on some of those grammar things, and be very explicit with what your position is and follow it all the way through.